Welcome to Sweet Tea Hospitality. I'm Karen Conrad, and on today's episode, we are revealing secrets to transforming the coastal cottage kitchen without the expense of brand new cabinets. You won't want to miss this. Thank you for joining me for Sweet Tea Hospitality, inspiration for your heart and home. I'm Karen Conrad. The kitchen is one of the favorite places in the house, and we are working on the project Coastal Cottage and tackling the kitchen today without the expense of new cabinets. The kitchen has a place with the food, the drinks, the joy of preparing the meal, and it is a place where people like to be. People like to gather in the kitchen. That's normal life. No matter what culture, there is something special about the activity of the kitchen. It is a very important room in the house for hospitality, and one that we knew would take significant thought and work to transform it into what we envisioned for the Coastal Cottage. If you've been watching this, you know that we've got some big decisions to make on the kitchen. I mean, easily I could drop $30,000 on that kitchen, but I really like the idea of using the original cabinets. But the trick with that is, can I get them painted with a high enough quality that they will continue to look nice and work well? So I'm meeting Malchor over there with a painter, and we're gonna take a look at it and see if it's feasible. I really hope so, because I think it's gonna look great, but also this will really help me with the budget. Here's the wall that I was talking about with the brick, which is absolutely beautiful. However, it makes it a little challenging because it's not like we can just put a cabinet up against the brick. We would actually have to cut into the brick, which we really want to avoid. Also, you notice a very interesting hole over here, and that is where the retro, we call it the retro oven, was in. And Dave pulled that out, and we are going to be installing a new oven with a microwave attached to it, and we are going to cut into the brick a little bit below to give us that space. But this kitchen, prior to us doing the renovation, had no space for a microwave, and as you can see, the countertop and the space is limited. We had thought of many things, including extending the kitchen down, but at the end of the day, anything we did in the kitchen that would mean new cabinets, moving cabinets, would get into the tens of thousands of dollars, and we just don't see that in our budget. Also, these cabinets are amazing as far as quality. They are solid wood. So what we've decided to do is we are going to paint the cabinets, which will lighten this up. We'll probably do an off-white or a soft gray. And then we are going to get the white refrigerator out of there, and we're going to improve the backsplash, redo that, and bring in all new countertop. And now that we've got the wall in front of me opened up into the family room or living room space, we feel that this is going to be a spacious kitchen, and we just saved ourselves $10,000 to $20,000 by deciding to work with the existing cabinets. This is the space that the retro oven was in, and what we're going to do is take a mason saw, and we're going to cut down into the brick and over and back up to make room for the microwave and the new oven, which is all in one unit.
other than one small issue that we've got at the house.
Oh, wow. Okay, what's going on?
Well, it wasn't until the fresh paint went on the house that I realized that we really need to address the saggy gutters we've got. There's so much dirt in there that there's actually weeds sprouting out of the top, and it looks like one of those plant roofs that you see in urban areas.
We have saggy gutters. Oh my gosh. Hey, we don't have it in the budget to replace those gutters. So like what can we do?
Well, I was talking to Miguel, and although it's not going to be like totally perfect, I think if we replace all the clips, which isn't that expensive, on the inside of the gutters, it should prop them back up to where they're close to 90 degrees. It might not look like new gutters,
Okay.
But it'll be really close and it won't be noticeable.
How much is that?
Well, the clips are only like, I don't know, like $1 or $2 a piece. I actually haven't checked, but they're pretty cheap, and I think we can get away with like less than $100 plus labor. For Miguel to do that, he said he could do it in an hour or two.
Okay, I think that is a good way to go. I mean, if Miguel thinks that he can get it taken care of, and it's $1 a clip, oh my goodness, it's so worth a try. Levi, will you give Miguel a call and just let him know to go ahead with that?
I will, yeah, I'll let him know. And we should be able to get it done this afternoon, which should be great.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You bet.
All right, love you, Levi.
Love you too, Mom. Have a great day.
We're back in my workshop in South Lake, Texas, and let me tell you, I'm sure you looked at some of the befores with this kitchen. This was a challenge. This was probably the most awkward kitchen that I have ever seen, and that's actually saying a lot because I've been in a lot of properties. But we had a lot of different challenges that we needed to solve and big decisions that we had to make that really impacted our budget, the look and feel of the house. And so my goal with this was really to figure out how to redo this kitchen in a way that kind of didn't break the bank. You know, I didn't want to get into that $30,000, $40,000 renovation for the kitchen. And I also wanted to make sure that we kept some of the character of the home. So the first problem that we had to look at solving was figuring out how to open up the space. Part of a kitchen and having the hospitality in the kitchen is making it a place that people are comfortable and like to hang out. You know, when you go to the holidays and dinner parties, it just seems like people congregate in the kitchen. So I wanted to make sure that we really renovated this space in a way that caused people to want to be with me in the kitchen as we were cooking, or just be able to visit at their time when they were visiting the home. So we had to open this space up. On one side, when we look through the cabinets, where we had the stove top, and then the exhaust fan above that, there was a wall that blocked the view going into what is now the formal living room. So opening up that space helped tremendously, but we still had an issue with the exhaust fan that was coming down from the cabinets, blocking the space. There was really no way that somebody could have a conversation while they were working on the cooktop. So I found this amazing exhaust fan on Amazon for a really, really good price that went up into the cabinets. And what that allowed us to do is to be able to see through the kitchen into the dinette, and from there even into the formal living room. So as people are cooking, gathering in the kitchen, they're able to communicate with people around the property, and that's really important in a home, that you feel part of things when you're in the kitchen. So we're coming in the kitchen to give you an idea of, when you walk into the house, how the flow of the house goes, and also to show you that this fireplace is a huge part of the kitchen as well, which is actually a beautiful element. But with the orange of the brick, it was a little tricky to kind of make some decisions for everything to come together. So as we were deciding on the floor, it was really important that we pick out flooring that really kind of cut the orange and went well with the rest of the home. And with the repose gray in a lot of the walls and then alabaster on other parts, we wanted to make sure it wasn't too cool, and that's why we landed on Memphis Light, which is from Home Depot. It's a laminate floor, and it looks great coming up to both the gray repose gray paint and also with the orangey brick. Also over here, this was a big decision because we had paneling here, which we chose to keep on the back of the cabinet, and we painted it in the color alabaster. But we had this range hood that came down and was blocking the view in the kitchen. And it left us with kind of a little awkward stair step here. So I'm always thinking like, that's a little bit of what I would call a design blunder. So what can I do to actually make that blunder look like we did it on purpose? And the idea came, and I think it worked really well, is to add two lamp post lights. They're really in right now. It went with the character of the coastal cottage, and so I added those at the top, and it really draws your eye when you come in to those, and it kind of takes the attention away from the stepping of the cabinets. In addition, there's this very cute dinette space, and I wanted it open enough. So the wall behind it we removed that, and I knew I didn't have a space for a huge table, but I wanted to make a big impact. So what I did is I got this substantial light fixture that actually, if you look at the curves, goes with the curves in the cabinets. So I thought that was a little design element a lot of people might not catch at a conscious level, but would be there for them at a subconscious level. The cabinets were that orangey stain oak and not looking good. And on top of that, we had a dated backsplash, a very dated countertop. And as I look closer at the cabinets, you know what? They're absolutely beautiful. They were solid oak, and we decided to paint them the alabaster color and then bring in the nickel knobs, and the backsplash along with the updated countertop really gave us a look in that kitchen that I was very, very pleased with. One of the things you want to consider before you do a renovation, either in your home or maybe you're working on an investment property as well, is any change that we might want to make from a design perspective is going to have an impact on the infrastructure of the property. And by that, I mean the plumbing and the electrical. So I looked at that before I made decisions because I didn't want to have to move the plumbing. I didn't want to have to add a lot of electrical, because what happens with that is you have to have permits for those types of moves, and you can get into a lot of expense with adding those types of things. So we were able to keep within the existing infrastructure and just create beauty around the existing cabinets. You want to make sure you have somebody that knows what they're doing when they paint cabinets. I've seen some really bad painted cabinets. These were done well with the right type of paint. And also just make sure that on the inside you are painting the entire cabinet inside and outside so that it all looks consistent. The next thing that I was really hoping to turn from a blunder into something that might be beautiful is the lighting. It had a very harsh fluorescent light, which is very common back at the time that this was built. And I switched that out to a nice hanging black fixture that went with the rest of the home. And I added can lights in the kitchen because when you're cooking, when you're baking, you want to have a lot of light in the kitchen. And it was just fluorescent, looking kind of dark, and it made all the difference. And in addition, what we did is we painted those beams in the ceiling, just like we did in the family room, that alabaster color. And it went from a dingy old kitchen that you wanted to kind of get out of as quick as possible to a beautiful, light, and airy kitchen that I found myself enjoying spending time in. There was no space for the microwave. One of the things when you're in a smaller kitchen you have to pay a lot of attention to is the value of counter space. So when we purchased this property, the microwave was sitting actually on the countertop, which left almost no room for any baking or anything that you would want to do on a countertop. There also was no island in the kitchen, which caused sort of an awkward space between the wall, the fireplace wall, and the sink. And I was envisioning if I was there with my grandson, for example, and we were baking cookies, where would I even roll the dough out? There was nowhere that made sense. So we quickly decided to invest in cutting a hole in the brick and putting the microwave on top of the existing space where we got a new oven. There we are able to add a nice built-in microwave, open up the counter space, and then add an island that was custom made in the kitchen to be able to provide that room for perhaps serving a glass of wine, which we have it staged for that. It looks absolutely beautiful, or doing the baking and the cooking that everybody likes to do, and you have to set things in different places. One of the things we had with the layout is we had some issues with fitting in an island, but I knew we needed an island. There wasn't enough counter space for us to go without it, but the traditional islands that I could purchase were too wide for this space. So you want to make sure that you have enough room to move around, to wash dishes, then to serve, and that it was big enough to be able to pull things out of the oven. So I had this custom made, and it was a very reasonable price, but it fit perfectly in the kitchen. And I painted it the repose gray, which is walls in the rest of the house, and used the same countertop to really create a consistent look. So when you're designing your kitchen, maybe you're updating something, pay attention to those walkways and make sure that you leave enough room to comfortably get by in the kitchen. So this was our approach with this kitchen, and we think we made the right decisions. I'd love to hear what you think. You might wonder, what does scripture have to do with the kitchen? Well, it has a lot to do with the kitchen and actually every part of our home. But when we think about the kitchen and really about sweet tea hospitality, it's about laughter, joy, enjoying wonderful food and drink. And it's really interesting that God uses the word taste in scripture. In Psalm 16:11, this is from the Passion Translation, he says this, "Because of you, I know the path of life." This is David talking. "As I taste the fullness of joy in your presence. At your right side, I experience divine pleasures forevermore." God says here that we can taste the fullness of joy. And it reminded me that I have definitely had some great memories of places I've gone, or even holiday meals at our own house. And I think that the food was good. I'm quite certain it was. But do you know what I remember? I remember how it made me feel. And when people say that I enjoyed coming to your home, it's about the hospitality. It certainly is about tasting the food, but it's more about bringing God into the home and people being able to taste the fullness of joy in our homes. problems in the kitchen, but the biggest one that we could not figure out is we had just invested in all these new light fixtures and they were blinking and flickering like crazy in the kitchen. We could not figure it out, and we thought, oh my goodness, we've gone all this ways in the renovation and we couldn't get those lights to stop flickering.
And they didn't do it all at once. You'd be standing there and a little while later, all of a sudden, flicker, flicker, and you're like, what's going on with that?
And it was really nerve-wracking because we had spent a lot of money at this point on the renovation, and I just had these thoughts of, my goodness, someone's going to come in and look at the property and the lights are going to flicker, and then you know how your mind goes down, like they're going to look at the electrical, we're going to have to replace everything. But it was so funny because the solution was actually really simple and really inexpensive.
It was just the light bulb.
It was
the little LED light bulb.
Yeah, so we just had to buy the light bulbs that were recommended for the fixture. We replaced them. It cost us all of maybe $20, and all the flickering stopped. Okay, let's take a minute and talk about the cost for the kitchen renovation. We painted the cabinets and it cost about $1,000, but I want to share something with you. It's a great way for you to save money. One of the things that we did with this project, and I would really advise you to do this as you hire people to help you, is I had it bid by the project, not by the hour. And I'll tell you, in this situation, it saved us probably thousands of dollars, because this is what happened. We had one painter come in and paint the cabinets, and they weren't painted well. They were not covering well. There were some real issues. And because we had this bid by the project, our general just had to get it right. And so he brought in another painter to come in and really paint these cabinets correctly. Using the right paint's really important. Knowing what you can keep for hardware, what you need to replace. And also, if you have someone painting your cabinets, or if you're going to do it in your own property, make sure that you thoroughly paint the inside of the cabinets. Otherwise, what happens is you've got the outside looking all new, but the inside is still the old oak color or the previous color. So if we would have paid by the hour, we would have had to pay a lot more than the $1,000. The island, being custom made, was about $800, and that included the Calcutta quartz that I put on top of it. Now that's really key, because in this small kitchen, I didn't want to break up finishes. It would just make it look smaller. So that was a big add, and I think one of the best decisions that we made in this property. The new oven was about $1,159, and I got that from Best Buy. It's really been difficult during this season to find appliances, and there's a shortage basically. And I found that Best Buy has got a great selection. So going between Best Buy, Home Depot, Lowe's were the three that I really checked out, and they had the best value for the oven. And I could purchase a matching microwave just to make that look really, really polished. The new microwave was $375, and then we had to have a cabinet that fit into the brick, and that was about $350. I want to take a moment and explain something that is also going to help you if you're doing a project like this in your own home, or if you are doing a flip or an investment type property. If you've got one person that you can work with to help general things, it's really an advantage because as they work on projects, they've got a group of contractors that are used to working with them, and they know how to find the best people to come in and work on your property. So we were able to do this island, and we were able to do the inset of the cabinet really at a very inexpensive price because it was our general contractor's brother-in-law. And I could just think of anything that I thought like, hey, let's do this, let's do these shelves. And Melchor would go to his brother-in-law and they would give me a price. And I'm not even sure if I could even get the right product and supplies for the price that I got for them actually doing the entire project with those. And then the lighting, we paid a lot of attention to the lighting in the ceiling and under the counter. So that was about $750. The new exhaust fan that set up into the cabinets was $179. The knobs, I didn't use fancy knobs. I just went to Home Depot and I got the 10-pack. They were $130. And then what I call the icing on the cake was that pantry door. We replaced an oak door with a nice pantry door that you could have a little bit of sight into the actual pantry, and that was $225. So for this kitchen, we were able to completely renovate it for $6,018. Dave and I have a lot of fun cooking together in the kitchen and often find ourselves and guests all sitting around the kitchen while we cook and prepare meals. It is such a happy place and full of the joy God desires for us to experience. I hope this has inspired you to turn your kitchen into something that is even more welcoming and hospitable to family and friends. Dave and I also have some fun videos on Liftable TV where we share our recipes for sugar and gluten-free apple and pumpkin bread. You can download all of those completely free at KarenConrad.net. And remember, share Liftable.tv with friends and family. Thank you for joining me on Sweet Tea Hospitality. I'm Karen Conrad, and I'll see you next time.